Imagine a young man running on a muddy pitch in the grey drizzle of northern England, overlooked by almost everyone. He's quick, he's hungry, but he's not wearing the shirt of a famous club. There are no TV cameras, no roaring crowds, just a handful of spectators, the harsh sound of boots on wet grass, and a dream that seems impossibly far away. This is the world Jamie Vardy came from, a world where football is raw, unfiltered, and survival is never guaranteed. And yet, from this unlikely place, a story began, one that would change the way we think about football dreams. Jamie Vardy was born in Sheffield, a city with a deep footballing tradition. But for Vardy, the path to stardom was anything but traditional. His early years were typical for a boy in Yorkshire. He grew up in a working-class family. His father was a crane worker, his mother worked at a solicitor's office. Life was simple, sometimes hard. But football was always there, a constant source of joy and escape. As a teenager, Vardy joined the youth system at Sheffield Wednesday, one of the city's proud clubs. He was small and wiry, but he had pace and an instinct for goal. For a while, it seemed like he was on the right track. But dreams can be fragile. At 16, he was released. The club didn't think he was big enough, strong enough, or promising enough to make it. For most, that would have been the end. The door had closed, and the world of professional football seemed to have left him behind. But Vardy wasn't the type to give up easily. He signed with Stocksbridge Park Steels, a tiny club playing in the 8th tier of English football. The pitches were rough, the facilities basic. There were no agents or scouts waiting in the stands, just the love of the game and the hope that maybe, just maybe, someone would notice. Vardy had to work part-time in a carbon fiber factory to pay the bills. He spent his mornings on the production line and his evenings chasing the ball on floodlit fields. The grind was relentless, but there was a certain honesty in it. This was football stripped to its bones. At Stocksbridge, Vardy started to blossom. He scored goals, lots of them, but still, the bigger clubs didn't come calling. He played with a ferocity that came from knowing every game might be his last chance. Sometimes, he would sprint half the length of the pitch to chase down a lost cause, never giving up on anything. His manager at the time, John Hepworth, later said that Vardy played like he was possessed, not by anger, but by the fear of disappearing, of being forgotten. But life outside football was complicated. Vardy got into trouble. One night he was involved in a street fight. He was charged with assault, found guilty, and for 6 months he had to wear an electronic tag. He was under a strict curfew, forced to be home by 6 p.m. This meant he had to leave matches early, sometimes being substituted at halftime so he could make it home in time. The humiliation was real, the consequences heavy. It would have been easy to spiral, to let the mistakes define him. But instead, Vardy doubled down. He kept playing, kept running, kept scoring. By his early 20s, Vardy had outgrown Stocksbridge. He moved to Halifax Town, a club in the 6th tier, for a transfer fee of just £15,000. It was a step up, but still a world away from the glamour of the Premier League. At Halifax, he continued to do what he did best: score goals, often in spectacular fashion. In his first season, he scored 26 times and helped the club win promotion. People started to take notice. Scouts from bigger clubs appeared in the stands. For the first time, there was a sense that something extraordinary might be happening. But football is never straightforward. After just one season at Halifax, Vardy moved again, this time to Fleetwood Town in the 5th tier. The transfer fee was non-league record, around £150,000. For Fleetwood, it was a huge gamble. For Vardy, it was another chance, but also more pressure. Fleetwood had ambitions. They wanted promotion to the Football League, and they needed Vardy to deliver. He didn't disappoint. In his only season at Fleetwood, Vardy scored 31 goals in 36 games. He was electric, fast, fearless, and ruthless in front of goal. Fleetwood won the conference and secured promotion. Suddenly, the story was too big to ignore. Newspapers started to write about this unlikely striker, the man with a tag around his ankle and a nose for goal. The football world was waking up. And then, in 2012, at the age of 25, Jamie Vardy got the call that would change everything. Leicester City, Then a championship club offered him a contract. The transfer fee was £1 million, a record for a non-league player. It was a staggering sum, a sign of real belief. But it also brought a new kind of pressure. Vardy was no longer the outsider with nothing to lose. Now, he was a £1 million signing, expected to deliver in a league full of hardened professionals. His first season at Leicester was tough. The jump from non-league to the championship was enormous. The defenders were stronger, the pace faster, the scrutiny relentless. Vardy struggled. He scored just 4 goals in his first season. The fans were impatient. Some questioned whether he was out of his depth. Even Vardy began to doubt himself. There were nights when he thought about quitting, about walking away from football altogether. He confided in his partner Rebecca that maybe he just wasn't good enough. But she convinced him to keep going, to fight for his place. It was a small moment, but a crucial one. Without that support, the story might have ended there. Vardy spent the off-season working harder than ever. He improved his fitness, sharpened his finishing, and began to believe he belonged. In his second season, things started to click. He scored more goals, played with more confidence, and helped Leicester secure promotion to the Premier League. For most, just reaching the top flight would have been enough. But for Vardy, it was just another beginning. The Premier League is a different world. The stadiums are bigger, the crowds louder, the pressure almost unbearable. But Vardy approached it the same way he had approached every other challenge, with relentless energy and a refusal to give up. In his first season in the top flight, Leicester struggled. They spent most of the year fighting relegation. Pundits wrote them off. But in the final weeks, something changed. The team found belief, and Vardy was at the heart of it. He scored crucial goals, ran tirelessly, and inspired those around him. Leicester survived, and Vardy had proven once again that he belonged. But no one could have predicted what would happen next. The 2015-16 season began like any other. Leicester were still considered relegation candidates. The odds on them winning the league were 5,000 to 1. No one expected miracles. But under the management of Claudio Ranieri, the team found a rhythm, a spirit, and a sense of togetherness that defied logic. Vardy was the spark. He scored in game after game, breaking the Premier League record for goals in consecutive matches, 11 in a row. Each goal seemed to carry the weight of his entire journey. The rejection, the setbacks, the nights spent running on muddy pitches under flickering lights. There was something about the way Vardy played that season, a sense of urgency, but also joy. He ran at defenders with the same hunger he had shown in non-league football. He celebrated every goal as if it might be his last. And behind the scenes, he kept his routine simple. No fancy diets, no elaborate rituals. Just hard work, a bit of Red Bull before games, and a belief that anything was possible. The pressure grew as the season went on. The media attention was relentless. Every week the question was asked, could they really do it? Could Leicester and Vardy really win the Premier League? The team refused to buckle. They played with freedom, with unity, and with a sense of fun that was rare at the top level. Vardy's partnership with Riyad Mahrez and Shinji Okazaki was electric. The goals kept coming. The wins kept stacking up. Off the pitch, Vardy's story became a symbol. He was the outsider, the underdog who refused to give in. Fans from all over the country began to root for him, to see a bit of themselves in his struggle. His past, once a source of embarrassment, became part of his legend. The electronic tag, the factory shifts, the early substitutions, all of it fed into the idea that maybe, just maybe, football dreams could still come true. As the season reached its climax, the tension was almost unbearable. Every game felt like a final. The whole world watched as Leicester edged closer to the impossible. And then, on a quiet Monday night, it happened. Tottenham failed to win at Chelsea, and Leicester, against all odds, were crowned champions of England. Vardy had scored 24 goals, leading the line with courage and skill. The celebrations were wild, but also tinged with disbelief. No one could quite believe what they had witnessed. For Vardy, the journey from non-league to the Premier League title was more than just a personal triumph. It was a message to everyone who had ever been told they weren't good enough, that their dreams were too big, or that their past mistakes would define them. He had broken through every barrier, not by being perfect, but by refusing to stop. The aftermath was surreal. Vardy was named Football Writers' Player of the Year. He made his England debut, scoring on his first start. He played at the European Championships, representing his country on the biggest stage. And yet, in interviews, he remained grounded. He spoke about his teammates, about the importance of hard work, about the people who had believed in him when no one else would. But football is never static. The following years brought new challenges. Leicester's title-winning team was picked apart. The pressure to repeat the miracle was intense. Vardy's form dipped, and critics wondered if the fairy tale was over. But he kept scoring, kept fighting. He adapted his game, becoming more than just a sprinter. He learned to read the game, to time his runs, to lead by example. Even as he grew older, he remained one of the most dangerous forwards in the league. Along the way, Vardy's life changed in ways he could never have imagined. He became a father. He set up the V9 Academy, a project designed to help other non-league players get a chance at professional football. He used his story not just as a source of pride, but as inspiration for others. The journey had given him perspective, a sense that football, for all its glamour, is still about the basics: hard work, belief, and the willingness to keep going when things get tough. There were setbacks, of course. Injuries, dips in form, the inevitable march of time. But Vardy seemed to relish the challenge. Each goal, each sprint, was a reminder of where he had come from. The memories of Stocksbridge and Halifax, of cold nights and empty stands, never left him. They kept him hungry, kept him humble. As the years passed, Vardy became more than just a player. He became a symbol of hope, a reminder that the game is bigger than the spotlight. His legacy was not just in the goals he scored, but in the message he sent: that football is still open to those who are willing to fight for it. Sometimes, on match days at the King Power Stadium, you could still see glimpses of the old Vardy: the raw pace, the instinct to chase lost causes, the grin after a goal. But there was also something new, a sense of peace, of having proved his point. He had made it, not in spite of his journey, but because of it. Long after the title celebrations faded, after the headlines moved on, Jamie Vardy kept playing, kept running. The story didn't end with a trophy or an award. It continued in every game, every challenge, every moment he stepped onto the pitch. For those who watched, who remembered where he started, it was a reminder that sometimes the most extraordinary journeys begin in the most ordinary places. And that, in football, as in life, the real magic often happens far from the spotlight, on muddy pitches, in empty stands, and in the hearts of those who refuse to give up.